With the start of basketball season just under a month away, it's finally time to release the 2022-23 Women's Basketball Preseason Poll. Hi there, I'm Keenan Dixon in the Midcoast Sports Studios. Thanks for joining us. The South Dakota Coyotes made a deep run in March after winning the conference for the third consecutive season, and now they have some pieces to fill, including a major one at the top. We'll talk about them a little bit later, but first, we'll start with number 10. The Omaha Mavericks. Carrie enters her third season after the Mavs fell short last year in conference play, dropping all but 3 games and finishing with a 7-19 record overall to come in last place. Elena Pilacuda returns with her double-digit scoring average, along with three-point threat Grace Cave's 8 points per game. The Mavs were in the conference title game 2 seasons ago and have ambitions of shocking conference voters after being selected 10th in the preseason poll. In the 9 spot, the St. Thomas Tommies. Ruth Sin enters her 18th season at the helm of St. Thomas, a program that won 4 games in conference play and posted a 7-21 record overall in their first Division I season. She looks to replace all-newcomer team selection Erin Norling and her 14 points per game. Jade Hill was another selection to that all-newcomer team and the second leading freshman scorer last season, averaging 13 points per contest. Checking in at number 8, the Denver Pioneers. Dosha Woods begins her 3rd season in Colorado's capital after a 5-13 conference record last year. She has her work cut out for her after losing the top 5 scorers from last season. Michaela Minette is the leading returning scorer for the Pios, averaging 5 points per game. They're getting a major boost from the transfer portal, with Allie Haar and Michaela Brandon transferring from Niagara and Northern Illinois. Western Illinois was selected 7th in this year's preseason poll. J.D. Gravina steps into his 12th year in charge of the Leathernecks after a 7th place finish last season. All-defensive team selection Elizabeth Lutz returns after leading the league in steals and averaging nearly 12 points per game. With the absence of last year's leading scorer Danny Nichols, who transferred, the Leathernecks will also lean on double-digit scorer Jada Thorpe for their offensive production. In the 6th spot, the Kansas City Roos. Former Texas associate head coach Deanna Jackson-Durrett takes over in KC. With 5 straight trips to the Elite 8 between her time at Texas and Mississippi State, Jackson-Durrett has hopes of turning things around and making a 6th straight Elite 8. She'll need to find someone in her team to generate scoring after all 5 starters exited the program, taking 60 points per game with them. 2020-2021 6th Woman of the Year Raven Nero returns after missing the last half of last season due to injury. At number 5, the North Dakota State Bison. Jory Collins enters his 4th season in Fargo after going 7-11 in conference play. Honorable mention selection Heaven Hamling returns as a leading scorer for the Bison, averaging 14 points last season. The only other double-digit scorer on last year's team was Ryan Cobbins, who transferred to Alabama in the offseason. In the 4th spot, the University of North Dakota Fighting Hawks. Mallory Bernhard enters her 3rd season at the helm after an even 15-15 overall record, including a 9-9 conference record. In her first season, the Hawks went 2-13 in conference play, improving to 9-9 last season for the best improvement in the Summit League. Casey Brahovich is the top returning scorer with 19 points per game and the 2nd best free throw percentage in the nation at 95%. Claire Orth is another returning double-digit scorer for the Fighting Hawks. Rakaya Beal was a 34th ranked backcourt player in high school, coming from Detroit, and the 4-star recruit looks to be a big boost for the North Dakota offense. At number 3, the Oral Roberts Golden Eagles. Kelsey Music takes over after 13 years at Division II Southwest Oklahoma State, where she took that team to the national title game in 2019. ORU finished 10-8 in conference play and in 4th place last season, ending their year with a semifinal loss to South Dakota State. Reigning Freshman of the Year Terza Moore is the top returning freshman scorer with 15 points per game. Moore was the only double-digit scorer on last year's roster. The number 2 team in this year's Summit League preseason poll, 3-time reigning conference champion South Dakota. The Coyotes lost a lot from last year's Sweet 16 team. With her Cinderella team's run, Dawn Plitzowite has moved on from South Dakota, taking the head coaching job at West Virginia, as well as most of her coaching staff. Kayla Carrius steps into a role with high expectations after working as an assistant at USD from 2016 to 2018. The former Horizon League Player of the Year will look to her own star player for a spark. 6th Woman of the Year and leading returning scorer for the Coyotes, Grace Larkins, who averaged 6.5 points per game. At the top spot in this year's Women's Basketball Preseason Poll, the South Dakota State Jackrabbits. The reigning WNIT champs returned their top 4 scorers, all averaged double digits last season. Aaron Johnston enters his 23rd year and has WNIT MVP Maya Sellens 14 points and 47% from three to look forward to, catapulting an explosive offense that ranked second in the nation in field goal percentage at 48 and tops in three-point percentage at 39. The 2019 Summit League champs look to regain the top spot at the end of the season when it matters. Well, that's how they stack up in this year's basketball preseason poll. Tickets for the men's and women's basketball championships in Sioux Falls go on sale on October 18th, and you can find all those details for that on our website, thesummitleague.org. As always, thanks for joining us.